What happened to my TV? Why is it dimmer all of a sudden? That's what a lot of users have been asking with the S95B. Here's a video to help you understand what's going on. Calm down, first of all. Your TV is fine. In fact, after the updates, the TV is actually in a way better place than it was at launch. There's less bugs, it's faster with the OS, though still clunky. I think this is an improvement over the base stock firmware. Well, how would I know? Well, I have been dealing with this TV from the very get-go, and I do have one TV that is on the stock firmware still that I had side by side next to the brand new firmware. And yes, it's almost the same experience, just with a couple of tweaks to the modes. And I'll explain all of the things that happened with the S95B and ways to get around what happened so that you can more or less get the same type of experience that you had prior to all these changes. Before we begin, I just want to make sure you guys are understanding that measurements, brightness measurements on a 10% window, 25% window, whatever size window you want to put it on, is never going to be representative of what the real content is going to be. The TV manufacturers have a way to trick the meters on these measurements. They always have, and it's not the first time that they've done it this year with the S95B. At the very start, the release of this TV with Filmmaker mode, that was wildly inaccurate, but when it was measured, everything looked like it was perfect. Samsung tricked a lot of people. Then we had Vincent of HDTVTest make a video essentially calling everybody out and saying, hey, calm down, guys. It's not that good. Really, from an accuracy standpoint, he was right. If you were an accuracy purist, the S95B sucked. But if you were somebody who didn't care about accuracy and you just wanted a lot of crazy colors, nice picture pop, it still looked somewhat realistic. Man, I think a lot of people were just loving this TV at launch. And so it was changed. And, rightfully so. It was supposed to be Filmmaker mode after all. So yeah, now it is more accurate after the 12.11 firmware patch. That's not where it stopped though. So after the patch, we still had movie mode. And movie mode was also a wildly inaccurate mode that a lot of people really liked. They didn't care that it was inaccurate. It wasn't inaccurate in the way that you have just like ridiculous colors or anything like that. It was just more so the actual EOTF tracking was off on the TV, and the tone mapping that it did was kind of deviating from the creator's intent. For movie mode, I don't think this is a horrible thing because you do have something more accurate in Filmmaker mode. I think you have to have two different types of movie modes. You need something that is more poppy, and you also need something that is closest to reference accuracy as you can get with a consumer TV out of the box. So I think there are, sides to both arguments. But what happened was with the 13.02 patch, movie mode was changed to be identical to the 12.11 Filmmaker mode, meaning that Filmmaker mode and movie mode had no difference whatsoever. Also meaning that your movie mode that you may have loved looks a lot dimmer because of that as a result, because it is now fixed a little bit with the EOTF curve, and so things will naturally look a little bit darker to the average eye. And one of the things that I noticed when I was comparing movie mode to Filmmaker mode was that the tone mapping algorithm that they're using seems to be a little bit different. So these are things that I noticed, but I saw this is still active to a degree in standard mode. It's not going to be the same one-for-one experience as you had with movie mode, but standard with the color temperature changed, with the color space changed, I think that it can get very close to what the previous movie mode was. So a lot of people were asking me, hey, what changed with the latest updates, 13.04, 13.03? Well, to be honest with you, nothing picture quality change happened since 13.02. So anybody saying otherwise, probably incorrect unless there's something that I am personally missing. Absolutely possible, but to my eye, there's no difference. And I compared them side by side. I did it before and after in the same settings, and I looked to see if there was anything I'm missing here. Is anything different? Different kind of content? All of it pretty much the same. And so from what I gathered, all they changed was they fixed a bug that was in multi-view according to the European website patch notes, where sometimes they do put the notes, but this was the only thing that they listed for 1303. So take that as you will, but as far as I know, nothing picture quality changed since 1302. So the other thing that happened in 1302 that I want to talk about is game mode. Now, game mode was slightly adjusted in 1302, and really all that happened was the ST2084 really just came down -2 from where it was. So if you're wanting to get the same game mode you had before the 1302 update, you just bump your ST2084 up to +2. That's it, really. That's all you have to do. And then it's more or less the same picture quality that it was before. And I think that it's fairly identical to my eye, and most people will probably be fine with it. So go ahead, do that change if you just want the same exact feeling you got. And really, that goes for any mode. If you are feeling like you just want a little bit more extra to your HDR while it's not accurate, bumping the ST2084 can give you that kind of perception that your TV is now brighter. So if you're ever watching something that you just feel maybe should be a little bit brighter, or maybe isn't as impactful as you'd hope, just bump up the ST2084. Really, these controls are there for you to toggle at your liking if you want to. There's nothing against it saying that you can't. Depends on what you're going for at the end of the day. But if it's not picture accuracy that you care about, go wild with these settings and do whatever you want to the TV. That's really what I preach about every TV. I think that that's what these settings are here for. Otherwise, they would just hide them away. The manufacturers know you like to tinker with the settings. There's nothing wrong with it. It's one of my favorite things about TVs, is that you can just do whatever you want. And if you want it professionally done and you don't want to touch it ever again and you just want the most accuracy possible, hire a calibrator. That is your best bet. But if you're going to believe somebody on what they say is the most accurate settings, there's a chance that those settings might not work with your TV because there are so many out-of-the-box variables with the S95B. The other thing about game mode is that it has always really been capped around 1000 nits if we're being realistic. If you try to set the TV above 1000 nits, you get wild clipping all over the place in Xbox games if you're doing it through the Xbox. And one thing that I want to caution everybody with is that most games already are capped at 1000 nits for HDR in the first place. And I seen a few things where somebody was measuring a game. The game was like 1300, maybe even 1500 nits or something before the update. But then after the update, it was like 1000. But the thing is about that, the game that they were using is capped at 1000. So something just doesn't add up with that measurement. But also, you guys can't just take what measurements say as fact. Again, there are ways to fool the measurements. So just have to remember that. I'm sure there's going to be people that disagree with this video, and that's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion on this matter. But I just wanted to kind of give people some perspective on this and to understand that, be reasonable. But at the same time, I also want to say what Samsung did here is not okay to take away, modes that people like without giving something back in return. I think, if you're going to take away something like movie mode, at least give us like a movie day mode, something like that. I've talked about that in the past, but I really don't like when they change things dramatically, but they don't give you any real compensation for it, where you're going to be stuck now with what they think is correct for that mode versus what you liked about the mode. So it really is unfortunate in that aspect, but there are workarounds. That's all I really wanted to present with this video, and I didn't want to do anything else but that. So hopefully this video was informative to you, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did like it, please give a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future content. If you want to watch more on the S95B, I have a side-by-side with the A95K and much more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.